Black. That's the first word I heard when I walked into his family's estate for the first time. Not hello, not welcome, just that one syllable whispered like a curse behind a crystal flute of champagne. I should have left right then. But love, or what I thought was love, can make you blind, even to a house full of mirrors angled against you. Stephen Whitmore was charming, filthy rich, and disarmingly attentive. The kind of man who opened car doors and asked questions like, "What books shaped you?" We met at a fundraising gala for youth literacy, where I was a keynote speaker and he was the billionaire heir in the front row, smitten. I was black, bold, and building a name in nonprofit finance. He said he admired my fire. I didn't know he was hoping to own it, that we dated for a year. A whirlwind of weekend trips, lavish gifts, and uncomfortable silences whenever my blackness became inconvenient. Like the time his aunt asked if I was mixed with something because I was far too pretty to be just black. Stefan had just chuckled and changed the subject, or when he took me to a ski lodge where every woman looked like a Vogue cover for 1952, and the waiter assumed I worked there. Stefan had tipped him extra to smooth it over. I ignored the signs, or rather, I interpreted them the way a woman in love does, as misunderstandings, not warnings. Then came the proposal. On a rooftop, under 1,000 fairy lights, with a diamond the size of my regret. I said yes, because even revolutionaries get tired. Because I wanted to believe I could have the fairy tale too, even if the prince's kingdom was built on foundations that weren't made for women like me. 3 months into the engagement, the cracks deepened. "You're not inviting your cousin Malik, right?" he asked one day over dinner, slicing into rare steak. "He was wearing grills last time. It just doesn't look good in photos." I dropped my fork. "You mean it doesn't look white enough?" Stefan smiled like I was being silly. "No, I mean classy. There's a difference." "There isn't," but I stayed. I told myself I could fix this, that I could educate him, that my presence in his life would mean something. And maybe it did. To his brand, it wasn't until the prenup arrived that the real Stefan showed himself, a 40-page document, slipped across a mahogany desk like a contract in a crime thriller. Clause after clause about what I wouldn't have access to if we divorced. Investments, properties, even the house we'd picked together. "I just need to protect my assets," he said, smoothing his silk tie like a villain in plain sight. "It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. Except he'd marry me for the same reason he bought rare paintings, to display, to admire, but never to empower." That night, I called Ava my best friend since Howard. She listened in silence, then said, "Jess, he didn't fall in love with you. He fell in love with what you do for him." I cried, not because I didn't know she was right, but because I'd known all along and chose to stay anyway. The final straw came at the rehearsal dinner. The venue was a 5-star nightmare. Ivory tablecloths, opera music humming low, and rows of white faces that all looked vaguely alarmed by my presence. My family had been seated at the back, near the kitchen doors. Stefan's mother had accidentally arranged the seating chart. When I confronted Stefan, his voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't make a scene. Just enjoy the evening. Why are we always the ones who have to swallow it?" I asked. "Why do I always have to make myself small so your world doesn't feel too tight?" "You're overreacting," he hissed. "God, why do you always have to make things about race?" "Because they are. Every ignored microaggression, every backhanded compliment, every smile that hit a slur. This wasn't a love story. It was a transaction. I was meant to be the elegant black wife that proved he was progressive, polished, and generous. And he was supposed to be my reward, my stability, my status upgrade. But no more .as I stood before that crowd, forced to toast a future I no longer believed in. Something inside me cracked. Not a break. A revelation. That's when I saw the microphone. The one meant for Stefan's best man speech. I smiled, and I walked toward it. Black. That was the color of Jessica's dress at the Whitmore Foundation Gala. Sleek satin that hugged her like armor, its plunging neckline matched only by the depth of her fury. Cameras flashed. Socialites clinked glasses. No one noticed that the bride-to-be was about to declare war. 3 days had passed since the bridal shower. The fried chicken, the jokes, the moment Stefan told her she was too tense about race things. She hadn't spoken to him since. Let them all think it was cold feet. Let them keep smiling. But tonight was hers. The Whitmore Gala was the crown jewel of Stefan's social calendar. His father's legacy, his mother's pride, their annual showcase of wealth disguised as charity. Jessica had never liked it. Too much champagne, too little sincerity. But this time, she came with purpose. She'd spent the past 72 hours speaking to her lawyer, unlocking accounts Stefan never thought she'd question, tracing money that mysteriously landed in his failing startup just weeks after their engagement. It was her father's trust, left for her education and future, that had been tapped accidentally by Stefan, under a clause she'd never signed. Accident? No. Trap. She'd also spoken to Ava, who worked in media. Ava, who didn't need an invitation to the gala, just a press badge and a working mic, and now Jessica waited. Watched. Played her part like a queen with nothing left to lose. Jessica, there you are. Stefan slid next to her, all teeth and tailored tuxedo. He kissed her cheek for the cameras. You look expensive. Jessica smiled cold. You would know. Look, about the other day, can we just drop it? This gala is important. To you, she said with a flick of her eyes, scanning the room. To my family. Our future. Jessica's gaze swept over the ballroom, where Clarice Whitmore stood flanked by board members and city officials. They'd all raised a glass to her earlier, praising her for bringing color to the family, literally. Clarice had laughed. Jessica had smiled, but her eyes had memorized every face, every insult, every slight. The host took the stage. And now, a few words from our honored couple, Jessica Monroe and Stefan Whitmore. Applause. Lights. Jessica stepped up with Stefan, her fingers still laced in his for show. Good evening, she began, her voice steady, her words like ice. It's an honor to be here. When I met Stefan, I thought I'd found someone who loved me for who I was. A pause. Stefan smiled, oblivious. I was wrong. A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Stefan stiffened. Jessica, she turned to him, her face like marble. You married me for access, for money, for image. You thought I'd be your pretty little token bride, that I'd straighten my hair, silence my voice, and shrink to fit your table. Jessica, he hissed. Stop. No, you stop. She faced the crowd again. His family never saw me as one of them. They joked about my skin, my background, my resilience, like I was some pet project. I smiled through every insult, every microaggression, because I thought love could fix it. But love doesn't demand you erase yourself. Gasps. Phones lifted. Cameras flashed. Stefan accessed my inheritance. Without my consent. He used it to fund his failing company. And when I confronted him, he called me tense about race things. Clarice pushed forward, her perfectly manicured hand shaking. This is outrageous. You can't. I can't, Jessica said, her voice now ablaze. And I will. Ava appeared at the edge of the stage, microphone in hand, live stream already rolling. Keep going, she whispered. Jessica looked at the sea of shocked faces. To every black woman who's ever been told to smile through it, to be grateful for scraps, to be the exception in a room full of exclusion. This is for you. She pulled a small folder from her clutch and dropped it on the podium. Bank records. Emails. Everything. The truth, unfiltered. Stefan lunged for the mic, his face red with fury. She's crazy. You're ruining everything. No, Jessica said, stepping back, her eyes fierce. I'm setting myself free. The room fractured, half in stunned silence, half in murmured outrage. But Jessica only saw Ava's steady gaze, her hand firmly gripping the camera. The live stream was live, the truth already out. Later that night, the story broke online. Black heiress exposes Whitmore's scandal live at Gala. Stefan's accounts were frozen. Clarice's PR firm scrambled. The wedding? Canceled. The venue? Released. Jessica didn't cry. She didn't run. She walked out of the ballroom, out of their world, into her OWN.AS. She exited the gala. The paparazzi swarmed, but she didn't flinch. Not once. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't a pawn. She was something they couldn't control. Months later, she gave a TED Talk, erasure in silk gloves. The hidden cost of assimilation. It went viral. She spoke to packed audiences, urging them to never shrink, never silence themselves, never bend to someone else's version of what they should be. Stefan's fall was fast and hard. The fallout from his deceit spread like wildfire, and by the time he attempted to salvage what was left of his reputation, the damage was irreparable. Clarice's social empire crumbled, and the Whitmore name, once synonymous with privilege, became synonymous with scandal. Jessica had dismantled the perfect facade they'd built, and in its place, she built something better. Herself. She wasn't a victim. She was the storm.